Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda. This is Echoes Without Origin. I am a late diagnosed autistic ADHD woman. I also have SDAM, severely deficient autobiographical memory, and I have global aphantasia, which means that I don't have any of the senses in my mind. Some people with aphantasia only experience like no visuals. I don't have sounds or taste or can think of textures in my brain either. And I have the PDA profile of autism, which is pathological demand avoidance. Also, the more affirming term is persistent drive for autonomy. And that kind of plays a role in why I haven't been on the channel in a very long time. So back in like May of this year, I hit a pretty high autistic burnout, which is, political climate plus just personal things that were going on in my life, that things just got really intense. And I just didn't have the energy or I just could not make YouTube videos. A couple months ago, I came back and I uploaded, I think, 2 videos. Like I had intended to come back and reboot my channel. That was my intention. Unfortunately, PDA, pathological demand avoidance, basically it felt like I was putting too much pressure on myself, and I just got to a point where it was like every time I would try to go make a video, I just couldn't. If you have the PDA profile of autism, you'll kind of understand. It is very debilitating. It is the reason why I've never been able to hold a job for very long, because my autonomy to my brain is like something that is ultimate, and it gets in my own way. It doesn't matter if it's coming from outside or if it's a demand I place on myself. My PDA will shut me down. Which between that and ADHD, is why I am so incredibly proud that my first debut novel is launching tomorrow. That I was able to take a book and take it from start to finish all the way through publishing. I'm just so proud. It's taken almost 2 years, which honestly isn't that bad for a debut novel. The only reason why it feels like it's so long for me is because I wrote the book in 3 months. I had a monotropic, autistic kind of situation, a state, where my entire focus became writing the book. I sat down and wrote for hours a day, and I would stop, to just have to do basic hygiene, take care of my family, stuff like that. But every single free moment I had, I was writing for 3 months, and I wrote, over 100,000 words. But then after that, that's when things slowed down, and I had to learn. I'd never written a book before. I've never taken a writing class, and so I had to get an editor and beta testing and learn, all the ins and outs of what it takes to self-publish. One of the things about what I want to say about my book is it was really important for me to write it because I think that we need more representation of disability in literature, normalizing it. And so my story has disabled characters, but it's not, a story where let's overcome our disability. No, it's just disabled people living their lives, right? So my main character is Katrina, and she is an autistic ADHD librarian. And so she's the heroine of the story, and it is a vampire romance that takes place right here in the city that I live, Vancouver, Washington. Because of my SDAM memory struggles and because of aphantasia and not being able to visualize things very well, writing the book in a setting that I'm familiar with really helped me have like concrete things to be able to, create the story around. Katrina is also based heavily off of my personality. It is not a biography. I'm not a librarian. I wrote her at like age 29 at the beginning of the book, and I'm 45. But a lot of who I am, personality wise, I imbued into Katrina. I have a friend who has dissociative identity disorder. And when I first became friends with this person, I didn't know much about DID and I wanted to learn. And when I tried to find DID in the media, like in books, both fictional, because, if it's done well, you can learn through fiction, and also, factual books, it was very hard to find anything about DID. And there just needs to be more positive representation about DID, because things that are out there tend to stereotype people with DID. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. Now it's called DID, dissociative identity disorder. It portrays them as villains, the psychotic person in the story, kind of thing like that. And so I wanted to write a book. Again, it's not based on my friend, but it's inspired by my friend, so that there's more positive DID representation and more people can learn about it. Because, a lot of my audience is autistic, and about autistic masking. People with DID have to mask really hard. They, usually have to mask everybody in the system, has to pretend that they are one person, because it's just so not accepted. And they can't really often live an authentic life because they're constantly masking. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. So I'm going to read the back of the book to you. Katrina Prescott is proudly autistic ADHD librarian who prefers books to people, routines to surprises, and quiet days repairing book bindings to just about anything else. Her life feels quiet and predictable, except when she's with her best friend, whose dissociative identity disorder adds a dash of beautiful spontaneity to Katrina's structured world. But one night, after uploading a crochet tutorial to VidVibe, Katrina stumbles across a creator unlike anyone else she's ever seen before, Monty the vampire. Well-spoken, mesmerizing, and oddly convincing. Intrigued, Katrina sends a message, and that single click becomes the catalyst for everything to change in this neurodivergent romance story. Soon, her tidy world unravels in the most unexpected ways, because Monty doesn't just play a vampire online, he might actually be one. With logic failing and her heart on the line, Katrina must decide, is this real? Is she losing her mind? Or is it finally time to follow the spark? This is an open door, fresh, high-stakes urban fantasy featuring an autistic female character, fated mates, positive dissociative identity disorder representation, found family, and explicit consent in real-world setting with secret vampires. Monty is the book boyfriend you have been waiting for. So a couple things. It was very important for me to put sex in my story, because a lot of people feel that disabled people don't want sex or aren't attractive, or just maybe that they don't even have desires. But it is very normal for disabled people of all sorts of disabilities to desire and want sex. So I wanted to have that in the story, because I debated about whether I wanted this to be an open door, closed door romance. And that ultimately is why I went with an open door romance. And I really wanted positive, consent-free, and affirming types of messages in my story. Did I say consent-free? I meant consensual, to like model, what a healthy, good relationship would look like. And I also want to read to y'all the content warning because I crafted this very carefully because I want the way I crafted my content warning kind of shows how I wrote my book with the intentions behind my story, right? So, on a serious note, delivered with a lighthearted wink, this book dips into some real life topics beneath all the vampire flirtation and romance fun. It's meant to be a mostly feel good story full of connection and charm. But what's totally fine for one reader might be a no go for another. I believe in transparency without judgment, so here's a friendly heads up on what you'll find inside. Spoiler free, of course. There'll be consensual vampire biting, because of course, one past tense memory that involves a non consensual turning. Violence in the scene is minimal and emotional safety is prioritized. Chapter 13. There's mentions of blood, human, murine, bovine, and porcine. There's nothing graphic or gory. There's open door sex scenes featuring enthusiastic consent, emotional intimacy, and occasional teeth. The central character with dissociative identity disorder is portrayed with respect, input from community voices, and without sensationalism. DID is caused by extreme childhood trauma. This is not a trauma story, but there are brief, non-detailed references to the past. I don't believe mental health conditions require a content warning, but childhood trauma references do. If DID is new to you, I invite you to read with curiosity and compassion. But what's not in this book? Well, graphic violence, sexual assault, gore, trauma as shock value, and I don't write that way. This story was built with kindness and care. This list isn't exhaustive. If you have specific sensitivities, feel free to reach out. Your safety in your reading space always matters to me. Now, back to the vampires, the cute librarians, and the social media meet cutes. Amanda Maehill. So I don't know if I actually said the title of my book yet. I'll put it across the screen earlier, but Social Bites from Fangirl to Fangirl. I'm really excited. It's releasing on Halloween tomorrow. In the US, it's Halloween. So it's releasing tomorrow on Halloween because of vampires. There will be a print version coming out. I had some issues uploading the print version to Kindle, so it's not coming out on Halloween. The ebook will be available tomorrow for $5. I did that. I did that as a neurodivergent nod because $5 is so much better than like $4.99, which is what most books are in my category are listed at. So I do hope you check it out. And if you like it, please leave me a review. As an indie author, word of mouth is really the only way to sell my book. I want to give a shout out to my daughter who drew the cover of the book. I'm so proud of it. It is so beautiful. I went back and forth so many times whether or not to leave the social media apps named in their current form. So like in my book, I have VidVibe, which is basically TikTok. But ultimately, I decided to change the names of all the social media apps just because so many things are changing so rapidly right now. Like when I was writing the book, it was like, is TikTok going to be sold? Is it not going to be sold? Will it be around? Will it not be around? And so I could date my book even faster if I left in the name TikTok. So I changed it to VidVibe. But basically, yeah, Monty is cosplaying a vampire on social media, but he's hiding in plain sight because he actually is a vampire. At the back of my book, I actually included book club discussions because this book does have themes that are pretty strong, things that book clubs could talk about. And so I put a list of questions at the back of the book for book clubs too. So anyway, please, if you buy my book, please let me know. I'm really excited. It's been, like I said, it feels like a long journey to get here. But I did, and I'm so happy. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it so much. and share the link as much as you can if you want. And I'm going to do my best to come back and do some more YouTube videos. I can't make promises because my PDA has been like not my friend lately. So one last thing before I go, because I like to tell y'all about my latest fun fidgets. This is one I found on Amazon, and they're magnetic silicone balls. I'll put it up on my Amazon shop. It's not there yet, but they are just like a fun texture, and they're magnetic. I would like them more if they were a little bit stronger magnets. The magnets are pretty weak, but they're just fun to kind of like roll around it in your hand. So this is my new fun fidget that I like to play with. All right, till the next one, guys. Bye.